Pakistani President Arif Alvi has dissolved parliament, paving the way for a national election amid the country's worsening political and economic crises.
Outgoing Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif wrote to the president last night, given the parliament's 5-year term was due to expire this Saturday. The government now has 90 days to hold a general election, but the vote could be delayed until early next year, with the Election Commission planning to redraw hundreds of constituencies based on a fresh census.
The government also has 3 days to choose a caretaker prime minister who will oversee the upcoming polls. Mr. Sharif will meet opposition leader Raza Riaz today to finalize a candidate. For more, we are joined by Samina Yasmin. She's a director of Center for Muslim States and Societies at University of Western Australia. Samina, thank you very much for your time. First of all, I want to get your reaction to the possible delay in polls in Pakistan and Mr. Khan's imprisonment. How concerned are you that this could fuel more political instability in the country?
I think the fact that the elections would be delayed was already a given. Even last month, some people that I was talking to in Pakistan suggested that the number of months being talked about was at least 6 months. And when the census results came out and the way the whole boundary issue is being discussed, without changing the number of the seats in the National Assembly, it becomes very clear that the elections would be delayed. Now, what does that do to Imran Khan's future or the stability in Pakistan? Imran Khan's future for the time being is really in a limbo because the government and the establishment, meaning the military, had already decided that they are going to not let him contest elections. So he's been disqualified by the Election Commission of Pakistan. The judiciary has already imprisoned him or asked for his arrest, and basically he's not in the picture. But what does that do to the people who were willing to support him? That takes us into the question of the people who were supporting Imran Khan. They had their own power base in their own constituencies, but they have been made to realize that if they stay with Imran, they don't have a future either. So as it happens in Pakistani politics, they have decided to sacrifice their loyalty to Imran Khan and stay in power when it is possible. So I think what we'd see is a very mixed picture. Imran Khan won't be contesting elections. PTI numbers would be small in terms of those who contest elections, but it doesn't mean that the public won't support him. But would PTI come to power without Imran Khan? I think there's a huge possibility that it would not happen. And so really in case of Pakistan's future in political structure system, we can easily say that the way the system would work after the next elections, whenever they are held, it would be it would sort of a coalition. I may be proven wrong, but I think Imran Khan is definitely not in the picture, at least for the next few years.
Yeah, it's hard to see how this is going to play out, but we do know, as you mentioned, that a delay to the elections could stretch it out to 6 months. But there is only 3 days to choose a caretaker premier who will oversee the upcoming polls and govern in the time being. Who's that likely to be, and what are they walking into?
Well, I think the question of the caretaker prime minister has already been discussed for a number of days. And everyone knows that they're walking into a situation that is really politically very unstable. People would question the delay, even though they know that it's going to be delayed. But more importantly, Pakistan is suffering from serious economic issues. So they know that they're moving into a very difficult economic conditions. But again, when we look at the fact that Pakistan's politics for a number of years has been managed by the military, either openly or in the background, I would say the military has already been looking into it. With the government that's just gone, they had already set in place structures that would facilitate investment. And so the economic processes that would happen in Pakistan would really have the blessing of the military. So whosoever takes care of the government while the elections are being prepared will be given the responsibility, at least on paper, but won't be the totally responsible personality. I think there's a whole military plus other groups that are involved in it. And again, it depends upon who is chosen. If the preference is for political settlements with other countries, then I think a former diplomat might be the choice. But if the preference is to just focus on economics, then we would see finance people coming in. And they would have the same challenges, whosoever is chosen.
You earlier mentioned that Mr. Khan's future political future is in the limbo. With Mr. Khan's removal from the political scene, would PTI be able to stay relevant and have a good chance of making electoral gains, because they did quite well in the past by-elections?
Look, PTI's future in the past and in the future would be closely tied to how the military lets it operate. At the same time, it's also tied to how people look at Imran Khan. So PTI without Imran Khan is unlikely to attract as much attention in the near-term future. But in the long term, no political party in Pakistan can be easily removed from the scene. If we go into the history when Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was removed both physically and politically from the political scene, it was very clear that sooner or later, those who abide by his ideas would come back. And that's what happened. Benazir Bhutto, his daughter, became the prime minister in 1988. So what we do know is that even though at the moment PTI is in limbo, Imran Khan's future is in limbo, we can't say that PTI is not a party to Pakistan's future in any way. Excuse me. I think at some level, in few years possibly, we could see once again those who decide what kind of a structure Pakistan should have might consider letting some form of entry back into politics by Imran Khan. As far as the people are concerned, there is still a very strong support base. It's not as strong as it was before the 9th of May, but definitely there are people, ordinary people, younger people, who have been influenced by his narrative of saying that he is the only savior of Pakistan. After Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, he's the one who's really led Pakistan into the process where Pakistan could be a real successful state. So people buy that, people have bought that, and the younger generation has bought that. So let's say for the argument, for the next 5 years, he's not in power, but these people who are in their 20s or early 30s, they would still be casting votes. So when the elections are held and when the military decides that Imran Khan may be allowed to come back in some form, I would see that we could again once witness Imran Khan's rise to some extent. Again, just like what Nawaz Sharif might likely experience, because he was disqualified a few years ago, and now people are talking about him being the prime minister fourth time. So in Pakistan politics, nothing is ever final as to who's going to come to power and why. What is final is if the military supports that person or that party, the chances of coming into politics are a lot higher than if the military doesn't support them. So against the wishes of the military, Imran Khan's future would still be bleak. But when the military reconsiders it, we could see a different picture.
So, Mina, we've just got a minute left. Just remind our viewers why the military holds so much influence over Pakistani politics.
It's related to the institutional imbalance that's existed in Pakistan since it was created in 1947. Because of the threat from India, or the perceived threat, Pakistan entered into lots of military alliances with the United States, and then later on it built very strong links with China. So in that, there's a structure that is developed in which military holds most of the resources or has held most of the resources. So they have acquired a position vis-a-vis the politicians and the bureaucrats where they're a lot stronger, and they have consistently either come into politics directly or they have chosen people who would serve their agenda. So in that sense, people have always accepted military as the final arbiter. Now, when I say people have accepted, I basically refer to the politicians. What we find is, even though military is very strong now, there is a questioning of the military role because of Imran Khan among some younger people. So while the military is very strong because of its institutional background and its history, I would still say that there could still be a room for change. But military has been strong because of the money it has. And as some research has shown, it's very actively involved even in businesses around the country. And somehow the politicians think that if the military would support them, they would come to power. So it in itself becomes a reality. So I guess there are different levels at which you can understand the strength with which military has played a significant role in Pakistan's politics.
Samina, we'll have to leave it there. Fascinating insight. Thank you very much for your expertise this morning. Samina Yasmin, Director of Centre for Muslim States and Societies at the University of Western Australia.